Emily Winters sat at her kitchen table, fingers wrapped around a mug of black coffee that had gone cold an hour ago. Outside, Portland's signature rain tapped a gentle rhythm against the windows, creating a gray backdrop that matched her mood. 1 year. 365 days without Mark. She scrolled through the photos on her phone, snapshots of their last trip to Crater Lake, Mark's grin wide beneath his dark beard as he stood at the edge of that impossibly blue water. She could still hear his voice. Come on, Em. It's not a real photo unless you're at the edge. The memory made her smile then wince. How could she have known that the motorcycle accident would happen just hours after that photo was taken? One sharp turn on a rain-slicked mountain road, and everything had changed. Emily set down her coffee and looked around the craftsman-style home they'd purchased together 3 years ago. She'd kept most things the same, his leather reading chair by the window, the collection of vinyl records he'd curated so carefully, even his coffee mug still had its designated spot in the cabinet. Her therapist called these holding patterns gentle ways of denying the permanence of loss. It's time, she said aloud to the empty room. Her therapist had suggested setting small goals for moving forward, and today's was simple but significant. Delete Mark's contact from her phone. Emily opened her contacts and scrolled to Mark Redhart. Her thumb hovered over the entry. They'd met 10 years ago when she was 25, both fresh out of graduate school and starting teaching positions at the same high school. English and history departments. Classroom doors across from each other. Coffee that turned into dinner that turned into a decade together. As she stared at his name, a notification slid down from the top of her screen, a text from her sister Abby. Asterisk, don't forget, dinner at 7. The reservation was hard to get, so don't bail. Asterisk. Emily tapped to reply, but her finger slipped, landing back on Mark's contact, and somehow, impossibly, hitting the call button. She gasped and fumbled to end the call, but then froze. The screen showed the call connecting. Not going to voicemail. Not the automatic, this number is no longer in service, message she'd heard a month after his death when she'd called just to hear the old voicemail greeting. It was ringing. Emily's heart hammered in her chest. The rational part of her brain supplied explanations. The number had been reassigned, or there was some kind of system error. But a smaller, desperate part whispered, what if? On the fourth ring there was a click. And then a voice. Hello. Emily couldn't breathe. The voice was male, slightly distorted by the connection, but unmistakable in its cadence and tone. It sounded exactly like Mark. Hello, the voice repeated. Is anyone there? Emily's hand trembled so violently she nearly dropped the phone. Ooh, who is this? She managed. A pause. Then, I think you called me. Who's this? Not just similar to Mark's voice. It was Mark's voice. The same slight rasp, the same way he lifted his tone at the end of questions. This is Emily, she whispered. Who am I speaking to? Another pause, longer this time. Emily, the voice repeated, not as a question but as if testing the name. I'm sorry, I think you have the wrong number. No, Emily said, stronger now. This is Mark Winters' number. My husband's number. Silence stretched between them. Rain tapped harder against the windows. Emily's free hand gripped the edge of the table. I'm sorry, the voice finally said. I'm not Mark Winters. Then who are you? How do you have this number? Mark died a year ago. The silence returned, heavy with something Emily couldn't identify. Then, I'm very sorry for your loss. My name is Daniel. I've had this number for about 6 months now. Emily closed her eyes. Daniel. Not Mark. Of course not Mark. What had she been thinking? Phone numbers get reassigned. People die and the world moves on, redistributing even the small pieces of them like area codes and digits. I'm sorry, she said, embarrassment heating her face despite being alone. I shouldn't have. No, it's okay, Daniel interrupted. It must be strange calling and having someone answer. It is, Emily admitted. I was actually about to delete the contact when I accidentally called. A sign, maybe? His voice was gentle, understanding. So much like Mark's that Emily felt dizzy with déjà vu. I don't believe in signs, Emily said, even as her mind raced with the uncanny similarity of this stranger's voice. Neither do I usually, Daniel replied. But sometimes coincidences are interesting. Emily should have ended the call then. Thanked this stranger for his understanding and hung up. Instead, she heard herself ask, do people tell you that you sound like someone else? Your voice, it's just... Actually, yes, Daniel said. I get that a lot. One of those generic voices, I guess. But it wasn't generic. It was specific. Painfully, precisely specific. I should go, Emily said. Of course. A pause. Emily? I really am sorry about your husband. Emily thanked him and ended the call, then sat motionless at her kitchen table. The rain had intensified, drumming against the roof now. Her cold coffee sat forgotten. She hadn't deleted Mark's contact. And she had no intention of doing so now. Emily spent the rest of the morning in a daze, moving through her Sunday routine on autopilot. She graded papers from her junior English class, prepped for the week's lessons on The Great Gatsby, and tried not to think about the phone call. But by afternoon she couldn't resist. She pulled out her laptop and typed Daniel, along with Mark's old phone number, into various social media search fields. Nothing. She tried reverse phone lookup services, but they only confirmed what she already knew: the number had been reassigned. At 6:30, Emily found herself sitting in her car outside Nostrana, the Italian restaurant where she was meeting her sister. She was early, deliberately so. She needed to tell someone about the call, and Abby had always been her confidant. Inside, the restaurant hummed with Sunday evening energy. Abby was already at their table, her blonde hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, scrolling through her phone. She looked up and smiled, but her expression quickly shifted to concern. "You look like you've seen a ghost," Abby said as Emily slid into her seat. "Funny you should say that," Emily replied, then relayed the morning's strange call. Abby listened without interrupting, her brow furrowing deeper with each detail. It was his voice, Abby. Not similar. His. Abby reached across the table and squeezed Emily's hand. "Grief does strange things to our perception. Remember when Mom kept seeing Dad in crowds after he died?" "This isn't that," Emily insisted. "I'm not saying it was Mark. That would be crazy. I'm saying this Daniel person sounds exactly like him." "Exactly?" Abby sipped her wine. "Okay, let's think about this rationally. Voice similarities exist. That's why voice actors have careers. This Daniel guy probably just has vocal characteristics similar to Mark's." "I know how it sounds," Emily said. "But Abby, when he said my name..." She trailed off, remembering the way he'd repeated it, not as a question but as if tasting a familiar food he couldn't quite place. "What are you going to do?" Abby asked. "Nothing," Emily said automatically. "Then I don't know. Part of me wants to call again." Abby frowned. "To what end, Em?" "Best case scenario, you've found someone with a similar voice to Mark. Worst case, you're setting yourself up for more pain." Emily knew her sister was right. But as they ordered and ate, discussing Abby's work and Emily's students, part of Emily's mind remained fixed on that morning's call. There had been something in Daniel's voice beyond the timbre and tone, a familiarity that didn't make sense. Later that night, Emily lay awake, rain still pattering against her bedroom window. She reached for her phone and opened Mark's contact again. She should delete it. Move on. Yet her finger hovered, then pressed the message icon instead. Asterisk, "I'm sorry about earlier. It was just startling to hear a voice so similar to my husband's." Asterisk. She hit send before she could reconsider, then set her phone down, expecting nothing. 3 minutes later it buzzed. Asterisk, "No need to apologize. I can only imagine how strange that must have been for you." Asterisk. Emily stared at the text, her heart racing again. She should leave it there. Say goodnight. Delete the contact. Move on. Instead, she typed. Asterisk, "It was. Your voice is remarkably similar. If you don't mind me asking, are you from Oregon originally?" Asterisk. The reply came quickly. Asterisk, "No, I moved to Portland about 6 months ago." "From Colorado?" Asterisk. Emily frowned. Mark had grown up in Boulder. Another coincidence. "Boulder?" she typed. A longer pause this time. Then, asterisk, "Yes, actually." "How did you know?" Asterisk. Emily's fingers trembled slightly as she replied, "My husband was from Boulder too." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, "That's quite a coincidence." "Yes," Emily wrote, "It is." There was no response after that. Emily set her phone down and stared at the ceiling, listening to the rain and feeling the strange pull of something she couldn't name. Curiosity? Hope? Madness? Whatever it wasn't letting go. Monday morning arrived with Portland's typical gray drizzle. Emily moved mechanically through her teaching day, discussing Fitzgerald's use of symbolism while part of her mind remained fixed on the strange coincidence of Daniel from Boulder with Mark's voice and Mark's phone number. During her lunch break, she found herself on a search engine typing, "reincarnation memory transfer." The results were a mix of religious texts, pseudoscience, and quantum theory speculation. Emily wasn't sure what she was looking for. She didn't believe in reincarnation or ghosts or cosmic phone connections. But she couldn't shake the feeling that something inexplicable was happening. After school, rather than driving home, Emily found herself heading downtown to Powell's Books. The massive bookstore had always been her refuge, and today she needed to clear her head. She wandered through the color-coded rooms, eventually finding herself in the blue room with its philosophy and spirituality sections. As she turned down an aisle, Emily nearly collided with a man reaching for a book on an upper shelf. "Sorry," they both said simultaneously. Emily looked up and froze. The man was about Mark's height, with similar broad shoulders, but that's where the physical resemblance ended. This man had lighter hair, cut short on the sides, and eyes that were hazel rather than Mark's deep brown. His face was thinner, more angular. But when he spoke, "Excuse me, I was just trying to reach that Khalil Gibran book," Emily felt the blood drain from her face. That voice. Mark's voice. "Are you all right?" the man asked, concern creasing his forehead. Emily forced herself to breathe. "I'm fine. Just, are you Daniel by any chance?" The man's expression shifted from concern to confusion. "Yes, I'm Daniel. Do we know each other?" Emily's heart hammered in her chest. "I'm Emily. I called you yesterday. By accident. My husband's old number." Recognition dawned on Daniel's face. "Emily? Of course." He studied her face. "This is quite a coincidence." "Is it?" Emily asked, unable to keep the tension from her voice. First the phone number, then the voice, then Boulder, and now we're in the same bookstore at the same time? Daniel's gaze didn't waver. "You think it's something more?" The direct question caught Emily off guard. "I don't know what to think." Daniel glanced at his watch, then back at Emily. "I was about to grab coffee. Would you like to join me? Maybe talking would help sort this out." Every rational part of Emily's brain told her to decline. This was strange, possibly unhealthy, definitely unusual. But that same pull she'd felt the night before tugged at her again. "Yes," she heard herself say. "I'd like that." They walked to a nearby coffee shop in silence. The rain had paused, but the air remained heavy with moisture, the sidewalk slick with fallen leaves. Inside, they found a quiet corner table. Daniel returned with their drinks, a black coffee for himself and a latte for Emily. She hadn't told him her order. "How did you know?" she asked, gesturing to the latte. Daniel looked genuinely confused. "Know what?" "My coffee order." He set the cups down slowly. I don't know. Just seemed like what you'd want." He shook his head slightly. "Lucky guess." Emily wrapped her hands around the warm cup. "Tell me about yourself, Daniel." He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture so like Mark's that Emily had to look away momentarily. "Not much to tell. I'm 38. Software engineer. Moved to Portland 6 months ago after." He hesitated, after some health issues. "Wanted a fresh start." "What kind of health issues?" Emily asked. Daniel studied her for a moment before responding. "A car accident. Head trauma. I was in a coma for several weeks." He took a sip of his coffee. "When I woke up, things were different." Emily felt a chill that had nothing to do with the autumn air. "Different how?" "Dreams mostly. Detailed dreams about places I've never been. People I've never met." He met her gaze directly. "Sometimes I wake up feeling like I've lived another life." Emily set her cup down carefully. "When was your accident?" The question seemed to weigh heavily between them. "A year ago," Daniel said quietly. "Almost exactly a year ago." Emily's vision blurred slightly. "The same time Mark died." Daniel nodded slowly. "That's what I was afraid you'd say." They sat in silence for a long moment, the cafe noise fading to background static. "This is impossible," Emily finally said. "Is it?" Daniel asked. "I don't know what's happening either, Emily. But ever since I woke up from that coma, I've had these fragments. Memories that don't fit my life. Feelings of connection to places I've never been." "Like what?" Emily whispered. "Like Crater Lake," Daniel said. "I've never been there, but I can see it perfectly. Standing at the edge of that blue water." He paused. "In my dreams, there's always a woman there taking a photo. I can never see her face clearly." Emily's hands trembled. "This can't be real." "I know how it sounds," Daniel said. "My therapist thinks it's just my brain creating false memories to fill in gaps from the trauma. But you don't believe that." Daniel shook his head. "I'm not saying I'm him. That would be ridiculous. But something happened during that coma. Something I can't explain." Emily pulled out her phone and scrolled to a photo, then set it face up on the table between them. It showed her and Mark at Crater Lake, exactly as Daniel had described. Daniel stared at it, his face pale. That's it. That's the exact view from my dreams. This is the last photo we took together, Emily said quietly. Hours before the accident. Daniel looked up at her, his hazel eyes troubled. I'm not claiming to be your husband, Emily. That would be cruel and crazy. But I think, somehow, I'm carrying pieces of him with me. How is that possible? I don't know, Daniel admitted. Scientifically, it isn't. But here we are. Emily studied his face, so different from Mark's, yet with expressions that seemed hauntingly familiar. What do we do with this? I don't know that either, Daniel said. But I do know that ever since I moved to Portland, I've felt pulled toward something. Or someone. He hesitated. The day I got this phone number, I had the strangest feeling that it was important. That I needed to have this specific number. Emily felt tears threatening. You're not Mark. No, Daniel agreed gently. I'm not. I'm Daniel Weber. I have my own history, my own life. But somehow, I think I'm carrying something of Mark with me. Echoes, maybe. This is insane, Emily whispered. Completely, Daniel agreed. But I can't deny what I'm experiencing. Emily looked down at her latte, then back at Daniel. Mark used to say that consciousness was just energy. And energy can't be created or destroyed, only transformed. Daniel nodded slowly. The conservation of energy. A physics principle. He taught history, but he loved science documentaries, Emily said, smiling faintly at the memory. I hated history in school, Daniel said. But lately, I found myself drawn to history books. Civil War especially. Mark's specialty had been Civil War history. They talked for 2 more hours, discovering other strange connections. Daniel's new interest in vinyl records, his inexplicable knowledge of lines from books Emily had read aloud to Mark during his hospital stays over the years, the way he absent-mindedly tapped a specific rhythm on the table, the same way Mark had always done when thinking. Outside, darkness had fallen, and the rain had returned. I should go, Emily said finally. Daniel nodded. I understand. This is a lot. Yes, Emily agreed. I don't know what to think. Neither do I, Daniel said. But I'd like to talk again if you're comfortable with that. Not because of whatever this is, but because I enjoyed talking with you. Emily hesitated, then nodded. I'd like that too. They exchanged numbers, their actual numbers this time, and said goodbye on the sidewalk outside the cafe. As Emily turned to leave, Daniel called after her. Emily. She turned back. There's one other thing, he said, looking troubled. Something I've been dreaming about repeatedly, but I don't understand it. Does the lighthouse key mean anything to you? Emily froze. The lighthouse key. Their private joke. The key to an old lighthouse keeper's cottage on the Oregon coast that Mark had bought for their 5th anniversary, planning to renovate it when they retired. Only Emily knew about it. Mark had kept it a surprise from everyone else. Yes, she whispered. It means something. Daniel nodded, as if confirming something to himself. I thought it might. As Emily drove home through the rain-slick streets of Portland, she felt something shift inside her. Not a resolution or an answer, but an opening. A possibility that the world was stranger and more wondrous than she had believed. That energy, consciousness, love, whatever you called it, might not end so definitively after all. She still didn't know what to make of Daniel Weber, with his different face and Mark's voice, with memories he shouldn't have and knowledge he couldn't possess. She didn't know if she was discovering something miraculous, or simply finding patterns where coincidence existed. But for the first time in a year, Emily felt a sense of wonder breaking through her grief. A small, persistent light, like a lighthouse beam cutting through fog. She wouldn't delete Mark's contact from her phone. But perhaps she would add a new one, Daniel Weber. And perhaps in this strange intersection of loss and discovery, she might find a new way forward.